Want to Be an Assessor?
Hello and welcome to So You Want to Be an Assessor. We are glad to be back. Been a little bit sick and stuff, but we are here. So I am one of your co-hosts, Mei Beth Shepherd, and glad that you're here.
And I am also your co-host. I am Kaitlyn Reeder. And today I think we'll be going into a nebulous topic that can take us in all sorts of different directions, which is training.
Training, I know. Well, we'll focus mostly on training for individuals, I think. And a great training program can, as a part of a quality system, can support a laboratory. Is so much turnover in laboratories. I mean, every lab we've gone in, we hear, "Oh my gosh, we're still trying to hire. Oh my gosh, we're trying to backfill. We have high turnover." So if you don't have high turnover, yay you. But if you do have high turnover, then you probably can give this podcast, talk about all the training, because that's large part of it, is that you have to have a system for bringing people on, bringing them in, and getting them trained to be helpful to you. Because rarely does somebody walk off the street that it can be immediately helpful in an environmental laboratory, right?
That is so true. I mean, high school chemistry can get you only so far. But in the regulatory world, there's a lot more that needs to be covered than just trying to find the meniscus, which is a good thing to start with.
Exactly. There's basic lab skills, and hopefully you can hire those in. You can hire somebody who does know what a meniscus is and how to read it. That's a great thing. It's not, I'm thinking, is it necessary in microbiology? I don't think it's necessary in radiochemistry. But, most of the time, reading a meniscus means that you have some familiarity with laboratory equipment.
At the very least, you probably know what a graduated cylinder should be. It's the taller one, not a beaker, the smaller one. And we use one of those for actual volumetric measurements and the other one for mixing all of those measured ingredients. It's a lot like cooking. So actually, if you could find yourself a chef, they might be able to do that relatively well.
Probably, but the difference with chefs is I don't remember using knives very often at all in laboratories.
That's true. There's very few sharp knives, and like the sharpest thing you usually have are like the
the spatulas or the tweezers.
Yes,
I think that's what you were doing, right? The
tweezers. Like that's I think the sharpest thing, because I mean you stab yourself with those and you're just like
yeah. So it's usually, but agreed. So there are lots of basic laboratory skills that you hopefully can hire in. If you can't hire it in, then there are some trainings. We've done one. We should probably look at putting it up or making it available. Let us know if that would be something that would be helpful to you and to your laboratory. We're talking just basic skills. Like Kaitlyn mentioned, there's the tall one, which is a graduated cylinder. There's the idea of whether it's a class A. What is class A? What's that mean or not? There's the short squat one that is an Erlenmeyer flask. Or were you talking about beakers? Either
honestly, both of them.
Exactly. So there's different kinds of equipment, burettes, and so going through all of that, how to use pipettes, what is a burette, how do you use it, all the things that we've mentioned, how do you use them, which ones are good for doing exact measurements, which ones are not, because they're not all good for doing exact measurements. What's a balance? How do you use a balance? When do you use this kind of a balance versus that kind of a balance? So there's all just basic laboratory skills, and most people don't walk in the door with it. I've been doing it for so long that I can't not know it, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, I think my first time seeing a truly advanced balance that was made for the super tiny amounts, like for solids analysis and that sort of thing. I don't think I saw that until I actually started doing this job with you. Mostly because what I had been weighing out before, I didn't need that much specificity.
Yeah, that big word.
Oh
You didn't
gosh,
need it that close.
I didn't need
Yeah,
it that close.
exactly. So yeah, that's true. Analytical balances are typically much more precise, and so they're needed for some laboratory measurements, and so they're pickier, right?
Yes, but I would never make media on it.
Right, you don't want to make media on it because that's too much. They're great at little stuff. They are not so great at bigger stuff.
No.
Yeah, it's like, putting an entire oil and grease sample on it, which is over a liter, uh, with the weight of the bottle and all that sort of stuff, is usually more than those balances can handle. Um, they can tell you really well what the little amount is, but they are not very good at the bigger ones. So that sort of thing. So there's the basic information on what a laboratory is. There's other kinds of basic information for new employees, and this is not specific to laboratories. You may want to tell them where their desk is, where the bathroom is, how to use the phones, how to use the computers. I mean,
Safety stuff like fire exits.
where are the fire exits? That's just new employee stuff. You can't ignore it. You can't just say, "Hey, welcome, glad you're here. Go get to work." You may want to give them a tour of the entire location, introduce them to other people, uh, crazy things like that. I, I can't believe we might need to tell people that, but whatever.
I
So
mean, I like it when people tell me when I'm fresh onto their site. So it makes sense that you would kind of want that universally if you're new to a place, but
yeah,
we make sure to spell that out in our agendas.
exactly. So make sure that new employees know where they're going, what their job expectation is in laboratories. They could be starting. A lot of people tend to start in sample receiving, which is not a. It doesn't require a lot of work with chemicals directly. Some of the other tests do, and work does, and so a lot of people start in the non-chemistry sort of area or the non-chemical area. Uh,
Well, and receiving's a great place to start too, because then you get to see the whole width and breadth of what all is going on at this facility. And you get
mhm.
to hit a lot of those basic concepts again and again and again, whether it's taking like a pH with uh, the strips or the measurements, whether that is opening bottles in this area under a ventilation or just letting the analyst do it, as well as figuring out the limb system, should your laboratory have one, which can often be the backbone of many laboratories because limbs functions are incredible. And if you don't have one, you'll get very, very familiar with whatever the organizing system is at
Right,
your
because
particular
there's going
laboratory.
to have to be some sort of organization, because the whole idea is that you get small pieces of something, whether it's water from the river or from a plant or dirt from a field or whatever. You get small pieces of something called a sample, and you have to keep track of it and know what you're supposed to do with it, or what the laboratory is supposed to do with it, and then make sure that that gets done, whether you put it into the limbs to say that that's where, good point, Caitlin, about limbs. They're not required. They are helpful. And, unless you get no more than, say, 10 samples a week, that you could more easily keep track of. But if you get too terribly many, you need something to know what samples you have, what needs to be done to them, when they need to be reported, and what results go with which sample, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot to just the organization of the samples
Mhm.
is a big piece of it.
Yeah, which leads me into kind of the other part of training that you may want in things like your quality manual. I know it's a thing that we talk about quite a lot. It's a big document.
It usually is a big document, typically over 100 pages. And I think that we've said it before, quality manuals themselves, in the TNI world, there is a list of things in, I'm not going to spout off sections, but in the TNI standard, it says your quality manual will have, or reference, but it says will have some of these things. And so it lists specific things. Then there's another section that says will have or reference. So there are some things that must be in your quality manual, and then other stuff can just be referenced in your quality manual. But what that means is that you have to have a document that your new employees are going to read, and they're required to read it because one of the requirements is that they read, understand, and agree to follow your quality system, which is typically done via the quality manual. They if you could potentially have a quality manual that's 10 pages or less, and it's full of links to other documents. That would be the only way that a quality manual itself can be that short, I think. Um, because you can refer to other things. But if you're not referring, then it's in the quality manual itself. And so people need to read that, even if, and that quality manual is going to have some things that are just administrative. It's going to have document control, it's going to have purchasing, doing contracts, client communications, all that sort of stuff, which your typical analyst is not going to be overly involved with. But they need to know it's there, and they have to understand that it's there. And so one of the first things they're going to be doing is reading that quality manual, that quality system information, and they have to sign off on it. They have to accept responsibility for saying, okay, I'm going to work under this quality system. One of the unique requirements under TNI is a data integrity training, and that is required on new hire. What does on new hire mean? I mean, are we talking in the first 2 hours that somebody's there? Are we talking in the first 2 months? Are we, so um, there's not, nope, there's not a definition in the TNI standard. It says on new hires. So I typically suggest to people that they put into their quality system that they require their new hires to have data integrity training within a week, a month, pick a time, but define it for your laboratory, and then make sure that new employees have that training. There is also no requirement of what that training is. In some of the programs, DoD does specifically state you will cover these 8 things or whatever. And but so some people just go out and find a training online. Those are fine. They make a training that they put on their intranet. That's fine. They have a PowerPoint presentation that they send people through, or make them watch it. they they could just sit down and chat with you, one on one. Any of those are valid as long as there is documentation to say that a new employee has been trained on data integrity. So that that's part of new employee. There is, you also are going to need to get a signature uh, from your employees, signatures and initials, because they often are going to be putting signing off on data that they have accepted this sample, or that if they're receiving, that they check the pH and check the sample and put it in limbs or wrote it down appropriately.
Time that they received sample and that sort of stuff as well.
Right. So anyone who is going to take responsibility for data in your laboratory, you need to have on a what I call a signature log. I don't think the word signature log is part of the standard. It just says you have to have a list of names and
I think it was in a
initials.
previous version, the word signature log. And I think they um, realized that we were looking for like something very like a physical logbook, when in reality, that's not necessarily the best way for most people to keep signatures and initials, especially since in that first week or month or 6 months with your new hire, they're signing all sorts of stuff. They're signing the quality manual, the data integrity and ethics training, the SOPs that they're specifically going to be trained in, being trained, the IDOC, which we haven't like, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. We haven't quite covered those, but just so you have a roadmap of where we're going,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that you will sign, initial, date, and if at all you do have a limb system that is capable of it, digitally signing things. So having a way to compile whose are still good and whose are bad is very important. But it doesn't necessarily need to be a log, but you do need to have some thing, whether it's a form, a folder, whatever.
Right. Something that identifies people allowed to accept, produce data for your laboratory.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's those trainings. Uh, Computer security is another one that is becoming more and more important in laboratories. Don't remember that it's a requirement in the TNI program we were discussing.
I don't
But anyway,
I don't believe so, but I do remember that being one for the DoD, DOE programs.
right. Well, and so any training that's required by your organization obviously has to be done too. Uh, Hazardous waste training, or because you are going to be working with chemicals, and so you have to, often organizations will require uh, that people go over the hazardous waste plan for an organization, and so that's yet another kind of training. um, but then once you get people through all of that initial welcome to the organization training, you're gonna want them to get trained on a method or more, or doing sample receiving. Getting so you're gonna want to get them. Typically, that starts with reading an SOP, right? Reading what it is that they're supposed to be doing, and then shadowing someone uh, is often the next thing that, to watch somebody do it. Eventually, if you are doing a method, some laboratories do require DOCs, demonstration of capability. We talked about that a little bit in the previous ones, but so demonstrations of capability for even receiving. Good on them. It is not a requirement in the TNI standard, except for methods, analytical methods. Uh, some laboratories also require it for preparation methods. Um, it's a fuzzy area in TNI. Most and in TNI, they tried to do something called work cells, which just threw everybody off. It was very confusing. they would consider a work cell the analyst who did the prep and the analyst that did the analysis, that they were a work cell and they always work together. And so if the two of them work together on this test, then they were qualified for it. That quickly became silly when you have five prep agents or agents. Ha! You have five people that could prep a sample, and you have two that can run it, and they can switch in and out with all of that. So,
Oh gosh, I could see how that would have caused quite the drama and the stir over
yeah.
at TNI and in their world, because goodness, we have seen some large laboratories, and that is not how that works. It works
Yeah,
for a small one for sure, but
yeah, well, or and typically the small ones, you don't have a separate extraction group, distillation, like digestion, whatever those words are. That
mhm,
it's the analyst takes it from the field, sometimes literally from the field, through to final results. So they do the entire thing, and that's a little bit easier to write a DOC on. But anyway, while people are shadowing and or watching, their data should be signed off by them. They take credit for it, and their trainer or the person they're shadowing also has to sign off. That data should be signed off by two people.
mhm,
Um, and eventually they get to where they can do their DOC, their demonstration and capability, which is typically for LCSs. That's just the easiest, fastest way to say it. In the chemistry world, there's other options for the other things, but once they've got a DOC and are signed off and approved, they've passed their DOC, then they can run the analysis or that method without having somebody else sign off. But until
mhm.
that, they should be signed off, right?
Yes, I agree. Sorry, I got
There's
distracted.
choices.
I think there's someone honking outside. I don't I hope that's not for me. And I apologize if it bleeds into the podcast. But yes.
All right. Well, we are a little more than 20 minutes. So
Wow,
yeah, I know. Time flies.
time flies when we're talking about training. Who knew?
Exactly, exactly. But I think that we've gotten somebody in the door and doing a method
I
with
agree.
training we talked through.
Yeah. And hopefully after that, 3 to 6 month period of getting comfortable doing whatever it is that you have them doing, they are then sticking around for hopefully another at least 3 to 6 months. I mean,
Exactly.
if not longer, hopefully.
Yes. Well, and then there's cross training and there's, teaching, eh, getting them to learn other areas of the lab, other methods, and all that sort of stuff. Most people like
Mhm.
to continue learning. There are some people that learn a method and they are comfortable doing it and they don't want to switch anything. So you need to know what your employees want, what's best for them and the lab, because you want to have happy employees. Is my guess.
It's nice.
Yeah, as an attempt, sometimes employee, I think it's a good thing to have happy employees. Anyway, all right. Well, let us know what you think. Good news, bad news, anything else you want us to talk about, then
Yeah.
let us know.
Absolutely. And if you like this content, as always, please like and subscribe if you want to be notified whenever we post another podcast. Hit the bell icon in the corner, and that will send you notifications to your phone through YouTube. If you have questions that you would like to ask, you can always leave them down in the comments or at our email, assessorpodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, share with your friends if you found this helpful. If this is a little too niche and you'd like us to deep dive into something more specific, let us know.
Yeah, yeah, we're here to help laboratories.
Mhm.
So let us know how we can help you. All
Yeah.
right, thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.